here as well. And so we won't have that finance, they won't be in front of the finance committee meeting until that cycle has gone through. It'll go through the finance committee and then it'll come back to the board with some recommendation. That sound fair?
It's whatever.
Okay, I have nothing further to report. Director Dawn, Director Stump.
No committee meetings. I can report on Wild and Scenic at this point or during the committee, whichever one you want. Number 7 or number 8, it doesn't matter.
Okay, no, it doesn't. Well, let's go ahead and go through committee reports and then we'll go to number 8.
I have no committee report.
Okay.
Other than
Number 8, Director Stump, Woqualamy River Wild and Scenic Designation.
You want me to start on that?
Yes, please.
Okay. The last board meeting, we were given direction on how to proceed during the UMRA board meeting. And at that point, the UMRA board determined that we would take an oppose unless amended with the water agency's 4 amendments. The vote was 6-1-1. Alpine County abstained because they hadn't addressed it yet, and Calaveras County Water District, Chris Wright, Calaveras County, Chris Wright supervisor voted against. So that was the outcome at UMRA. Since then, we met with Lanny Hancock and her staff and the staff of Natural Resources and worked on trying to get our amendments included in the bill before it went to Natural Resources. And we made progress, but nothing changed as it went through Natural Resources. The vote was 6-2 for Wild and Scenic. Party lines, Republicans, Democrats. It goes now to
Appropriations.
yeah, appropriations.
Yeah.
We're hoping that it's not going to happen before Friday, so that it'll go after recess, and we have more time to try and work with the members of the Appropriations Committee. Frank Bigelow is the vice chair of that committee, which gives us some leverage. We're hopeful that that's going to take place probably somewhere in 30 days from now time frame. Gives us an opportunity to talk to different members. I've been real frustrated, not just with meeting with the Hancock people, but the press and the senator, where they throw their hands up and say, this will not affect anyone's water rights. And they're right. We have water rights, 20,000 acre feet on the McCollum. The only problem is if Wild and Scenic happens, we can't develop those water rights. So it's really nice on a piece of paper, but the reality is our West County is going to be heavily impacted in the future by Wild and Scenic taking place. And everyone kind of poo-poos the idea that, oh, this might have an effect on your county. I don't believe that. So they don't seem to be able to take a longer view than about 30 minutes. We have to take a view of what's going to happen in the next 50, 75 years as far as water supply for West County. And to put Wild and Scenic in place, I'm frustrated that they get away with saying these things like they're factual when they're not. So we have a real educational process that takes place with the members of the Appropriations Committee to get them to understand that this bill does have ramifications on water supply issues for Amador and Calaveras counties. That's why we put so much effort into this. I think that Amador is still taking the lead. They've expended tens of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees and consultant fees and lobbyist fees trying to stop this thing. And at this point, we're not trying to kill it. We're just trying to go ahead and have a wild and scenic designation, but please don't impact our future customers. It's just not in the best interest of the counties. So it's ongoing. I'm hopeful, but man, it's an uphill battle. This is a huge time frame. Jeff has spent tons of time on this.
Do we know the party line makeup of the Appropriations Committee?
It's about the same.
So it's a differential between the Democrats and Republicans. Every committee will be chaired by a Democrat. The majority will be Democrats. It's going to pass.
It's about 6-3. What was interesting is I had a conversation with Wendy Ritterbush, who's Aqua's chief legislative advocate, and she seemed to think that it might get slowed down substantially in appropriations. When it went through the Senate appropriations, it flew. I mean, they didn't even make it a consideration, they just ran it through. But it may be different for this one, and it may be because Frank Bigelow is our vice chair. We'll see. They've still got a long way to go, and I think one of the things we need to do is start thinking about contacting people from the governor's office, because that's going to be the next potential barrier that would keep this thing from going through.
I've spoken to Mark Cowan. He runs DWR. I've spoken to Felicia Marcus. She runs State Water Resource Control Board. And I've spoken to Randy Fiorini, the Delta Stewardship Council. They were not even aware of this bill. We need to focus at the governor's office if it moves through appropriations, but I see this as really a Hail Mary kind of a position. The governor is really tough to read in these kind of things, so I don't know how it's going to. You would think during a drought year something like this would never get any traction, but it obviously is on the fast track, and it was timed this way. The chair of Natural Resources was even frustrated that it came in at the last day kind of a thing. You know, here's the last moment to put the bill forward, and he said, you know, if this was 2 weeks ago, I would have made you go back and work with these people and get their amendments together. But now this is the last moment. We don't have that luxury any longer. So they planned this, I believe, in terms of everything at the last minute, and there's no way to counter anything that they're going to say because it's over by the time that it even gets to that point. It's really frustrating. We're always playing catch up during this process.
Who was the original motivator behind this? Was it Foothill Conservancy?
Yes.
And Friends of the River, don't discount them either.
You know, they were part of it, but this is Catherine and Pete's.
And their interest in doing this, they're saying that all the protections that are there now for expending to do any project is not adequate, that they need this wild and scenic.
Exactly.
But that's what's so frustrating about it, because they're definitely winning this battle, because they have more soldiers that are willing to write a letter, but they're saying, well, it clearly states that you're going to be able to preserve your water rights, and you get people like Buzz Eggleston that emails me and says, it says in here you can preserve your water rights, and I try to explain, Buzz, yes, but we can't build a project, so we can't perfect those water rights. you got to be smarter than that to realize that they recognize the impediment. And I want to go further on how what's really behind this. What's really behind this is a social engineering problem. And I'm not going to go all Peter Race on you here about the UN, but the reality is if you read the stuff that they're putting out on websites and such, it is that you need to live with the water you have today. They want us to the people who are here today better not use any more water. In fact, they want you to use about a third of what you're using today. And I've had people, when we were down at East Bay Mud, one of the Sierra Club guys came out and tried to tell John Plass, a cattle rancher over and supervisor over in Emerald County, that we need to learn how to live differently up here in the hills, and that we better learn how to do things like grow strawberries that have a higher economic value per gallon of water than cattle. And I thought John was going to kill him. But, I mean, we can sit here and laugh about it, but this is really what they want. They recognize that this is an impediment to growth, that, you know, and this, it didn't even bring up the questions about whether or not the general plan is gonna be in conformance without the McCullum River, without being able to perfect any water from the McCullum River. I believe it'll blow our general plan out of, or who knows, they may be making adjustments for that now, because, you know, hell, have they even answered our letter? Did they make any, when we request their board chair agendize this by last Friday, did we get a response from them at all?
No. Haven't seen one. No.
I think that at the very least we should do is write them another letter asking them to do the very same thing. And write another letter every single week until they at least address whether they're gonna whether they're gonna, because, I mean, East Bay Mud yesterday voted to support if amended. Now, how that's different from oppose unless amended is semantics. But, I mean, our supervisors hold the key to, I believe, to getting our amendments forwarded. And I mean, while we had a little bit of good news last week for a little while, unfortunately, and I believe Joel deserves a raise, it was a mistake because the Board of Supervisors didn't take it up and they haven't even responded to our request. And then I've got a supervisor over here crying because we don't pay enough attention to their agenda items. We got the one supervisor who decided he was concerned about this is mad at us for not babysitting them to educate them about these water issues, you know, and then you know, and then also the way this whole bill was, or the whole support from the supervisors even happened in the first place. It was on their agenda item before the consent agenda, which is usually set there for retirement, where they come out and they give somebody a plaque and they do that nonsense, or they tell somebody from the schools, great job on this or that. You know, that's where this thing was. There was no in the agenda package. There was no resolution. They didn't even act like they were going to take action on it. It was just. I mean, I'm just furious with our Board of Supervisors for just completely rejecting the fact that every water district within 50 miles might know more than they do. You know, we're all concerned for a reason. You know, and it's just. And the public doesn't know about it, but I bet you guys didn't know anything about this.
I knew.
Because you show up here.
Right. It was presented to the Board of Supervisors by the environmentalists, and they only heard one side of the story and voted for it, and didn't even ask for any opposing opinions, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
But they've gotten away with it. This is.
Provide the information to the Board of Supervisors to hopefully get them to reconsider that vote?
We did that last week. We sent them a letter, and we also gave them our amendments that we would like them to support. And all our amendments say is that we will be able to build the project that will perfect our water rights. I mean, it is not difficult, and then not to seek federal
Did the
designation.
communication include what negatives are liable to happen if this thing actually goes through?
I don't know if
The
that's to
communication
that
was
extent.
just to have a.
We
meeting,
asked them to
bring it back
agendize
the
it so we
table,
could go
yeah.
before them. I mean, that's basically what we did.
And that'd be the opportunity to present both sides, or have an opportunity to vote, to present a
So
side.
I don't know if we need to have because, and I'm not sure if we, I mean, this is just, the way this is done. Anyway, I would just like to have there be a weekly follow-up of our correspondence with them, and seriously, just not let that go until this thing is law or it's been amended. I don't think that we can be defeated yet. I think that we need to, because there's a chance that this will go, if it doesn't go into this legislative year, which maybe appropriations would knock it out, but we would have, we definitely are gonna have one new supervisor that may or may not support this from my area, and perhaps there may be another one in the Ebbets Pass area. So that majority would change perhaps in this next election cycle back to a stance that would most likely support our concerns. So I just think we need to follow up every single week.
I totally agree with that. The reason I do is When Friends of the River went before East Bay Mud, the first time they had their hearing on the Wild and Scenic, Friends of the River stood up and said, we moved this bill to, we brought this resolution to Lonnie Hancock because there was a 5-0 vote on the part of the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors. They ignored the fact that everybody else, once they heard about it, had opposed it. But they based the strength of their position on the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors vote. And if we can get them to reconsider it in the meantime, that may have some impact on the ultimate decision, because even if they came back and favored it 3-2, which is entirely possible, that's certainly a different consideration than a 5-0 vote.
It's 4-1 now. Cliff Edson wrote a letter and sent to
Yeah, I hope so.
Senator Hancock's office and stating his position. And he strong, now that he understands the ramifications of the bill, the letter's pretty strong. He's really kind of upset with the process.
Well, I tried to make Cliff recognize that it's a historic, it was a historic decision that they made on a whim. And while it may not impact us for, 10 years or so, it certainly has Amador County in a panic, and our west end of the county, and even some of the projects, like the conjunctive use, the things that are going on with East Bay Mud and San Joaquin County, they've gotten back together on conjunctive use, and they want to develop a project together. And that is one of the reasons that that I believe that East Bay has not, and they said so at our meeting in Oakland. John Coleman said, well, we've made progress with San Joaquin County, and we may need a project up above this stretch to develop the water for a conjunctive use project down below. Or in our case, we may partner in a big project, well, not a big project, but a small big project, or a small project with a lot of partners like San Joaquin County, East Bay Mud, Amador County, and us, and then perhaps trade some capacity out of, if we create capacity above the stretch, and then maybe get some capacity out of Part E, we could more easily serve the west end of the county. I mean, it's not an easy deal to have, but it's an option that we definitely want to have 30, 40 years from now.
And that we won't have.
We will not have it as that bill's written, because it will, and this is the hypocrisy of the Conservancy, is they continue to say, well, you can have your water rights, but every project that we've discussed, because there are no new projects, they're all historic projects that may change in economic value, they've opposed every single one of them so far. And Pete even came here to say today, a month or so ago, that the main reason that he wanted this bill passed was so he didn't have to look at any more projects. But on the other hand, they tell us that, well, you can have your water rights, but I guarantee you they're going to oppose any project that we do. Anything, even conjunctive use, even something like resupplying the groundwater, they're going to oppose it because it's growth-inducing in their minds.
Okay, that's a good discussion and a lot of good information. Thank you, gentlemen, on Snoqualmie River Wild and Scenic. Let's move on. Any legislation update today?
Just one item. I just wanted to make note that SB I think it was 848 hit the wall. That was the vote on the $11 billion water bond. Looks like it didn't pass. So
I can give you a little more of that.
life goes on.
One of the big question marks in Sacramento has been Governor Brown's position with regard to the bond, because he hasn't made any statements at all about whether he supports or opposes it. He came out, I believe it was yesterday, and said that he opposed the 11.14 and wants to see a bond, if it goes to the voters in November, somewhere in the range of $6 billion, which is under everybody else's. Senator Wolf came out with a 10.5, which was an amalgamation of several other bond proponents. And I know Steinberg came out and said that he wanted to see Senator Wolf's bond proposal be the one on the ballot. But now Brown is making noises about the fact that he wants to see something that's about half that size. So it's up in the air. No, tune in. It's a crazy game. And the thing is, it either has to be done by Thursday, or somebody's going to have to vote and extend the time upon which they can remove the current bond and get another one on. But Thursday's the first drop dead date.
Might be worth it.
Okay. Thank you. Bay Delta issues? Anything
Nothing
today?
here. Any communications, Don?
The only real thing coming out of Bay Delta is they're working on levee stuff. And ultimately, they decided that the levee system down there is a hodgepodge, and they're going to spend a huge amount of money, but ultimately, there's gonna be a lot of people that are not going to get what they want. And so there'll be happy people and there'll be sad people. So they met yesterday and that was their discussion.
Okay, thank you. Reports. Larry Diamond, anything further as the interim general manager?
We received notice of proposed emergency rulemaking. This is another state board action to add to their enforcement capabilities under the curtailment order and those sections of the water code that were added, I guess, just a few months ago. The way I read it, literally, is the proposed emergency regulations will have no new effect on water right holders that have already acted to stop their diversion and report on their compliance in response to the notice of curtailment that we've already received. So if I can believe that, I think we stand in good stead. But I read that only 20% of the 8,000 or so junior right holders that received the notice have responded to last month's order to stop diverting water, and that's why the notice of proposed emergency rulemaking is kicking in for July 1st.
Okay, anything further?
No, but this gives them some sharper teeth. $1,000 per day fine or $2,500 per acre foot, and more.
But we don't necessarily want to have sharper teeth, do we?
I want to stay out of the way of the teeth. Yeah,
Want to comply?
and comply.
I kind of wish we had done something differently in hindsight about when we went to the odd even water days. I wish we'd have just said, irrigate on alternate days. A lot of people have to do work for it. They got to, a lot of the old people got to change their sprinkler controllers and things of that nature. And while it may not seem like a big deal, I wish we had done something a little different.
Finding the owner's manual and figuring those things out or
Might as well
Not
just go
easy.
buy a new one.
There's a new business opportunity. Go around and configure.
read the manual and change the timer.
There's quite a bit of additional detail in these regulations as well, as far as defining what the state expects under the exception to the curtailment order, the human health and safety standard. They get into 50 gallons per day per person, absolutely no outdoor watering, and the list goes on and on. So if you're under that and you're claiming that this is your only water to provide for human health and safety, and that includes fire protection, suppression, you're under some very, very strict guidelines and reporting guidelines as well, self-reporting to evidence to the state that you continue to hold your folks to those strict standards,
And they're just going to keep pushing them down.
apparently.
So,
Even after the drought's over, they're going to keep pushing them down.
Well, that's another discussion they're having, and will continue to have, I guess, at the state board level as to how the curtailment will be lifted. What will the sequence of events be? What will what will the signs be? Rain, snow of a certain amount, certain watersheds? Do you do it by watershed? Do you do it in mass? That debate's starting to occur also.
What they're going to do is they're going to try to bring statewide equality, socialism to water. It's exactly what they're going to try and do. They want us to be up here at the same levels the urban areas are, and the reason is so we can save water for the urban areas. I mean, it's just so clear to me, even this wild and scenic thing, just watching that go down, and hearing the discussions that these people are having about, you know, they do not want us to use water anymore. I mean, except for the very basic needs. They want us to preserve it for downstream and for the environment. It's not really, they want to take away the water rights and water rights. They just want it to be, everyone's going to get an equal amount in the end. That's where they're headed.
We've got mountain counties. We have, all of a sudden, the northern counties have really got involved. I don't know what they've been doing the last few weeks, but they just woke up and they're completely upset. But one of the things regarding curtailment that they're extremely concerned about is what you're talking about, is how does this end? And what's the process? How do you come off of curtailment, and how is that going to take place? They're real concerned that curtailment is going to stay completely through the next season, in anticipation that the season isn't going to be very good. So they're not looking just at they're looking at hydro revenue as well as water. So they're already talking about how they're getting their attorneys together. So we're watching them real close.
Yeah, there's a lot of activity.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Patricia Christensen, Auditor Controller, anything to report?
Sure. As Jeff had mentioned, Monday is the last day of our fiscal year, and in July, we'll start our year-end process. In August, the auditors will be here to review all our records, and then by probably the first meeting in October, we should have the audited financial statements and reports to the board.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that timeline. Jeffrey Meyer.
I don't have anything at this time, however, I'd like to defer to Joel to give you some updates on what's happening in customer service and our water conservation efforts.
Okay. Joel.
Good morning. I spent some time developing a strategy for public outreach, which was included in that resolution that you passed for stage 3. Presented that list to Larry and Jeff, and we pared it down to about 15 things that we're going to be doing and have already done. And I just want to make sure you're all aware of what we're doing to get the message out about stage 3 restrictions. So we've made sure all of our staff is informed about what's going on. We've put as much information on our website as we have regarding the orders from the state and how the board responded to those orders. I put a press release out to all the media organizations that I know of in the county so they could write articles about it and help us spread the word. We're going to put a short message on every water bill that goes out, letting people know we're under stage 3, and to go to our website to get more information. We are putting posts on social media, letting people know what the restrictions are and giving them tips to conserve. I prepared a pretty detailed document of conservation tips for both outdoor and indoor watering, and I pushed that out along with a flyer that I prepared, which I don't know if you've all gotten copies of this, but I'd like to know how many you want so you can have those with you when you're out and about in the community. Sent those to homeowners associations, anyone who calls and wants to have a copy of this flyer information, I email it to them. We've even mailed one out to someone who doesn't have access to email. Signs have been posted throughout all of our communities thanks to Bill Purley and others who got that going, and that's causing a lot of people to ask questions and call us. And I've talked to some radio stations. I'm going to be on a television program tonight, interviewed about it, and that'll go out to about 8,000 Comcast customers on the local channel, and we'll go through the stage 3. I've also made a commitment to appear at various meetings when appropriate to talk about the stage 3 and answer questions. In fact, just last night, I attended a meeting with Dawn Stump, and Dawn took the lead and answered a lot of questions, but it was good for me to see what kind of questions were being asked by community members. What we haven't done is a mass mailing. We decided it would be stage 4 restrictions before a mass mailing would go out, specifically giving information about the restrictions. I also wanted to update you on what the impact of stage 3 has been on customer service. It's been pretty heavy so far. We're getting up to 30, 35 calls a day, sometimes 40, with people asking questions. The most common question is, do I have to conserve 35% myself? And we're making sure we're clarifying it's a district-wide goal. We're not going to be coming to your door and arresting you and putting you in jail. A lot of people are concerned about the consequences of this. A lot of people want to fill their pools, top off their pools. They want to fill their hot tubs. Anything that wasn't specifically outlined in the resolution, they're trying to ask about and get permission to do. And we're just sticking to board policy at this point. People are complaining that the signs are too small. They want to wash their cars. They weren't specifically mentioned in hardscape. They want more information. They don't have access to the internet. They are tenants and they're not getting bills anymore, so how would they know what their water bill is first, but also these restrictions? They don't read the paper, all of this stuff. So we're just trying to push out as much as we can and answer their questions over the phone. And I'm just trying to continue the outreach effort in whatever ways possible. I don't want to miss any areas. I don't want anyone to not be informed of this. We're also getting quite a few calls about tenant billing. And just to continue what Jeff said, we have not gone through the second cycle that's affected by the actual not sending of bills to tenants. I'm keeping very careful track of the data based on how many reminder notices we send out, how many door tags we hang, and how many actual lock-offs we have, as one tool for the board to analyze what effect and impact this is having on our customers throughout the county. I will say, in cycle 2, which is upcountry, we did not have an increase in actual lock-offs. We had a decrease by 3 in the last cycle of billing. However, West County usually has a lot more, so I'll get those numbers to you when they come.
Let me ask one question. Who gets the fine, the landlord or the tenant?
The fine goes to the legal deeded owner, so whoever owns the property gets the fine. They're responsible for it. They'll probably pass that on or try to, but that's between them and their tenant.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah. As I said, I'm just keeping track of all this data so that we can present that to you. But I do think it's a good idea to talk it through with Finance Committee, and so we can come up with some mitigation options. Going from offering tenant billings all the way to not offering anything was viewed by some as an extreme step in the community, especially property managers. Do you have any questions about stage 3? Are you unclear about anything?
No, very, very good job. Been seeing a lot of the pamphlet that you prepared. I commend you on that, and the outreach in the local paper. Just seeing a lot of information out there. I think the word's getting circulated, and you're doing a great job in doing that.
I have one comment. I just think it's really important that anytime we have to address the public about something like this, that we make it very clear in the beginning, because people's attention span is not that great, that we're complying with a state order. You know, this is not, because if you read the stuff on social media and such, it is just, CCWD wants us to use less water so they can have more of our money, and they're not reducing our rate by 35%. They should reduce our rate by 35% because they want us to do 35% less water. But I just think we really need to emphasize that we're reacting to a state order. And then we might want to, do a summary of what our rates are really made up of. I know it's for us, it's more clear, but people believe that their water is based on volume, and it really is not. It's your water bill is 95% bureaucracy and 5% capacity. And I just wish that there was a way that we could portray that better to the public about hey, yeah, you're using less water, but all the bureaucracy still has to be paid. And that's, I know it's hard to do, but I just think making sure that they know it's a state order, and then having some idea of what our rates actually, how they're made up, would be helpful.
And I agree with that. I think it's a great idea, making sure that everybody knows that it is a state order. It is a mandate on us to get the word out. And it's not something CCWD's creating or coming up with and on our own to save money or water or anything else. It's a mandate, curtailment mandate we have no choice. We have no choice but to do exactly what we're doing, reach out to our customers.
I guarantee you'll see articles in the paper, letters to the editor and such, about why are we giving water to Blue Lake Springs in this sort of emergency. You watch.
The stage 3, stage 4, that's part of our urban water management plan, correct?
Yeah,
I'd like at some point, or at least track this and see if when we do the update, if we need to be adding things or taking away things or changing things as part of that, what is stage 3, how we word stage 3, how we word stage 4. So there's a lot of the stuff we do because we don't really anticipate it ever occurring. Well, now it's occurring and we're living with it. So let's see how we might tweak it in the future. I know that's coming up next year, so let's see if we can improve it a little bit so that we're in a better position the next time this occurs.
To that point, I have a list of things that I think would make it a little more clear that I will present to Larry and we'll talk it over.
Cool.
I think we could do a few tweaks which would limit the number of questions that we get.
yeah.
Final thing is, the buy-in from the public on this has been really encouraging. Most people are calling to say, how can I do more? You know, I'll take 1 shower a week if that's what it takes. I don't want to bring that.
Give us a break. It's a good thing we're not a large county.
So it's been very nice to see that people are willing to help out with this. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Bill Purley isn't here, so there's no report for,
He did leave me some notes.
oh, okay, so Larry Diamond, on behalf of you, Director of Utility Services and Engineering.
More or less. Jeff Meyer covered a lot of this in his report regarding the capital improvement budget. Mentioned Reach 3A, design drawings are due August 1st, lift station 22, and copper sewer. I believe Bill wants to go out to bid sometime around August 1st. Millwoods, they anticipate the completion of that last segment Bill's mentioned previously in the next couple of weeks. They're going to have a crew up at Wilseyville in the common area of the camp near our in-ground water storage basin that we no longer use. The crew is going to do some brushing and removal of the fence so that we can get in and remove the high pylon cover and eventually fill in that pit and remediate that site. Right now, Bill's down with some state folks down in Copper, as well as the CSD representatives and Castle and Cook, looking at the facilities there with the intent of revising the permitting situation. Bill's applied for a dust control permit, and that's kind of in conjunction with the Stage 3 conservation measures. We need a permit to use that water for dust control. Sheep Ranch Pipeline Plant Grant Application. Bill's been putting in some time on that, and we weren't certain, didn't have high hopes at first about that meeting the eligibility requirements of the grant program, but we've had some positive feedback that offers us at least a glimmer. We certainly don't use a lot of water for the community. It's typically about 10 acre-feet per year, so to evidence significant savings, 20% means 2 acre-feet of savings compared to an expenditure of, let's say, $1.5 million. We weren't holding out high hopes, but we'll see what the outcome is and let you know. There was, let's see, the West Point Wilseyville application for tying the two plants together, tying the Wilseyville sewer plant into West Point that Jeff also mentioned, as well as Area 1 complete down in Flying Acres, and end of July for final completion of the primary contract. And then quite a bit of additional work remains to be done. I know Joel and Jeff have both been involved in trying to coordinate with the mostly absent property owners up in that area in trying to get the reconnections done to the new system so that we can ultimately cut that old one off and service it like any other area in the past. That's Bill's list.
They're busy.
They are busy.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bill. Item 12, agenda item 12, board reports, information, future agenda items. Start at your end, Director Davidson.
No, I don't have anything at this time.
Okay, Director Stump.
It was real interesting that I did a presentation for the Calvert County Women's Network last night, and Joel got me some flyers and stuck around to hear the comments. But no matter how much press we put out, there's people there that never even heard that we were doing absolutely anything. And others, there were a couple people from Tuolumne County that were talking about how terrible it is in Tuolumne County. I mean, Twain Harte area is just getting hammered. And Tuolumne County itself is getting hammered. So they're feeling it over there big time. Everybody knows about it, and everybody's working hard, and everybody's unhappy. But it was a real nice thing, like Joel was saying, to hear people talk about how they were conserving their water, taking 4-minute showers with buckets and doing all these other things. I felt pretty good about, the intent. Everybody seemed to want to be part of it. So I'm optimistic. We tend to hear from vocal negative people, but hearing the positive stuff was really a good sign. But most of my time has been with Jeff as far as the ad hoc committee on wild and scenic. I'm telling you, we've actually spent hundreds of hours on this. It is just an incredible amount of time. Other than that, I've got another presentation tonight. I think it's with a focus group out of Murphy's at 5 o'clock. And that's probably it right now.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing to report. Director Dean?
Yeah, just very quickly, nothing to report other than to respond to Ken Duncan's question about standby fees. And it was my understanding the standby fees were generated for those people within the district boundaries who had not yet received service at those boundaries, and these standby fees were in place to assure them that they would be able to hook up when the time came.
Except Ebbets Pass.
There's no reservation of capacity being considered in either case, but Director Stump is correct. Ebbets Pass, the standby fee is charged to each and every lot within Improvement District 5's boundaries,
Even if they receive CCWD.
whether or not they receive
Okay.
service.
All right, fine, that
Yeah.
answers,
And it's somewhat unique in that regard.
it certainly is, okay, that's fine. It was my understanding that state law was designed for,
It's consistent with the water code.
is it? Okay.
All right.
Well, I have nothing else.
Director Dooley?
Only thing I have, and I don't know whether it's an open meeting or a closed meeting issue, but I'd like to hear an update over the status of accepting this new building as our, the property from the builder. Because
I can give you an update on that. Not right now, but I will.
Okay, because there've been some issues that I've been aware of that I've never heard any more on, and more on, that sounds crazy.
What'd you call Bob?
But anyway, it's just something that's kind of been on the back of my mind that I'd like to hear an update on.
All right.
Okay. And we'll accommodate that. Anything else? All right, that's item 12. Going to item 13 on our agenda. Next board meeting, Wednesday, July 9th, 2014, 9 a.m., right here in this room. And Wednesday, July 23rd, 2014, 9 a.m. Currently in this room, it looks like we're faced with a possible cancellation at some point in the near future. We'll get more information on that. Okay, we're going into a closed session. Take a short break before going into closed session. We're going to be discussing item 14A, Public Employment General Manager Recruitment, Government Code 54957, and item 14B, Conference with Legal Counsel, Potential Litigation, Government Code 54956.9B, and we got two cases to discuss there. That's it. We're going into closed session and take a small recess first. Thank you.
Well, I can't stick around, I gotta go.
Okay.
I wonder if that letter to the county was the one I signed.